going to pass this around and I'll explain what it is.
Okay, for you folks at home, we're getting started again.
Can we go to the first slide? It's the one before this.
Oh, one back.
No, other way. There we go. Oh, I can't read with the thing. Okay, are we ready?
Okay.
Okay, pay attention. What I'm about to say may be considered a myth, untrue, dangerous, or just best kept secret by some beekeepers. Next slide, please. You can get free bees. It's really exciting. Next slide. This is what free bees look like. This is a swarm trap. It is a box with frames inside of it, and we will cover how the configuration of the frames comes in a minute. They enter through this little disc here, and the disc actually has 3 different settings: ventilation, where queens can pass through, and where bees can pass through. And what it looks like on a trap is like this. And for those at home, it's 2 3/4 inch holes drilled, there's 8 with a couple of little nails driven to keep mice out. And I don't do the mice nails anymore, and I haven't had a problem with mice, but I've had a problem with every other critter imaginable. You can look at these frames and you can see mud daubers galore. Don't leave them out over winter. It's a big mistake. I was lazy last year and I spent a long time cleaning out all sorts of critters. So pull them in early. The next slide, please. Okay, this is swarm trapping my way. I guess I should have said that slide before I said that. Okay, so this is how I do it. There's a lot of ways to do it. I don't necessarily do it the right way. My brother downloaded some trap designs on the internet, and we loosely based our designs on that. You can see that the bees are bearding up on different sides by the entrance on the image to the left, all around the entrance, and they're starting to go in. And on the right, they're actually bearding up on the back side of the trap. Those are not great scenarios. If I see that happening, I will actually get an easy nuke box or a cardboard box and a broom, which I think we had one earlier. Is there one over here in the box now? Brush. So you can spray the bees that are hanging on the outside of your trap, because a lot of times I've left them and I'm like, I'll just come back later, and they're going to be there and they're going to be inside the trap, and it's going to be really awesome. And I get my hopes up, and then there's nothing. And so it's like I could have just grabbed the opportunity right then and had success. So if you see that, it's a judgment call, and I've been wrong many times by not taking action. So you can brush them with this, spray them with sugar water, half and half, and you spray the swarm. It contracts on itself. You spray it, drop it into your box, and then you can take it home. You can stick it in a bee box. If you have some, if you already have bees and you have a frame with some brood on it, you can shake the brood, the other bees off. You stick that in your new bee box, and if you have like maybe a frame with some food, some pollen, some nectar, you stick that in there, and then the bees are all going to just go to it, and you have a much greater chance of them not absconding by giving them some anchor brood. So very important. Next slide, please. Okay. The importance of swarms in ancient Ireland. In ancient times, Irish beekeepers were so important that 18 pages of Brehon law book was dedicated to bees, and their language incorporated at least 6 different terms describing bee swarms. Next slide, please. If you found a swarm around a neighbor's house, I'm gonna have a hard time reading this. We'll make it up. If you had it around a neighbor's house and you brought it home to your hive, you had to give 3/4. There you go. You had to give 3/4 of the honey produced by the swarm to your neighbor. But if you found it in a tree, you could keep half of it. The 4 nearest farms to the domestic hive were entitled to a share of honey each year and a swarm of bees every 4th year. There were also specific considerations for wild hives and swarms found on cultivated land and on land not under cultivation. If you found a swarm on common land, you were required to give 1/9 of the honey to your local chieftain. So swarms were very important. 6 different terms for different types of swarms, and they didn't have any other sweetener back then, so maybe that was it. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, again, results may vary. The image on the left is top left. You can see the swarm trap on the other side of the tree. This is not ideal. It's really like failure, except for I was able to scoop them up and take them home, which meant that I wasn't prepared and I had to do a whole bunch more work, and it was really a drag, but it was freebies. Okay, the one on the right, same thing, get them, but it was a lot of bees. Next slide, please. So freebies, next slide, please. Not so free. Next slide, please. Not so free. Next slide, please. Okay, so problems with swarms. Okay, you can catch hotter than August in a bee suit Africanized bees. And that means that they are miserable to deal with. They are aggressive. We caught some swarms and they made all of the livestock where we were keeping bees turn nocturnal. They were miserable. Supposedly, hotter bees produce a lot of honey. I don't know, but some people will swear to that. I don't know. I don't have an opinion. I don't like to work with them. But the really cool thing, I'll get to the cool side of that in a minute. Okay, you can catch a secondary versus a primary swarm, meaning that it's really small, and maybe it has a virgin queen, and so it's going to be really slow, and it's not going to be very exciting, and it's going to maybe not be worth a lot of effort, but it's a possibility. I've caught really large swarms late in the season too. You never know. Okay, trapping swarms requires effort. Let's go back to the last.
Oh, sorry.
Requires effort, equipment, patience, persistence, and then action. There are some concerns with what are you catching? You might be catching a problem. I've watched a really interesting lecture about the thermal energy created when a beehive is swarming and the heat, and supposedly there's this thermal blast and there's no mites in a traveling swarm. And I thought it was a fascinating lecture, but it could be, not true. And then maybe there's some diseases, but then let's go to the flip side of this. I mean, the next slide. Okay, this is a swarm we caught this summer out next to Justin's bee yard. Justin's not here, but and you can tell that they're not very aggressive. They were good. It was fun, but they're never very aggressive when they're on the tree or on the box because they're not protecting anything. Ideally, what you want to do, now we'll skip that. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, swarm positives. I like this part. Each and every swarm I have caught contributes to my overall program one way or the other. Darwin Club bees contribute brood and wax production throughout season and warm the apiary. The last part, the warm the apiary, I'm not talking about the temperature. I'm talking about that if you catch bees that are hot, but you decide to use them in your apiary, maybe knowing that the queen is not going to last over winter because you're going to choose to pinch her off, but you're going to harness the power of 2,000, 3,000 eggs a day, and you're going to use the brood from that swarm you've captured and put it into your other hives that you want, maybe your nice Italians, your Russians. Then the wax building, the brood, it's very useful, but you're going to raise the aggressiveness a little bit. But bees only live how long? About 6 weeks. So they only live about 6 weeks. So in the summertime. So it's a game of tolerance. It's a game of patience. It's a game of perseverance. But it's really awesome because you can build up little splits, and it seems like the more you take, the harder they work in order to try to get ready for winter. But it's kind of sad because you're enslaving them and using them. Um, okay, you can catch small colonies. Maybe they don't do great, but you can merge them rather than making a new queen. So I've lost a queen. I caught a swarm. Wow, it was like instead of me having to make some other bad decisions or go buy something, I just got to merge what I caught with that, and bing, it was problem solved. Unless of course it was really hot, because once they got bigger and you found out they were hot, then it was really a drag later on. But problem another day is not a problem today. So freebies with queen that was strong enough to complete the biological challenges of a reproductive cycle. So swarming is a natural process that indicates that the queen was successful. She was able to produce so many bees that she was confident that it was time to leave and go conquer another area with their genetics and leave behind a successful colony in its place, hopefully. Sometimes that's questionable. So, so in theory and in experience, sometimes you catch some really awesome bees. And I have caught a marked queen, and it wasn't one of mine. So somebody else's bee swarmed, and I got me a green queen. Could have been yours. That came across the lake. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so the image on the left for those at home is the goal. You want them going into the entrance and coming out. And the best thing to do, if you see them like this, they're not swarmed up or bearded up on the outside of the box, is see if they're bringing in pollen. If they're bringing in pollen, they have committed. They're like, yeah, this is good. We like it here. So they're going to start laying eggs and they're going to start producing brood. So now you can be patient. You have time. You can get your act together, unless, of course, it's far away and remote and you don't have time. And then you just got to do what you got to do. But if you have time, wait a little while and let them get committed and building. This on the right-hand side, this is a complete misfire. There was actually a queen laying eggs and doing everything right in the wrong place. And I was able to, and you can go to the next slide, please. I was able to cut that off, stick it on a specially designed frame, and get them to produce babies inside the box. And it was a long, tedious, lot of work, probably not worth it process, but I did succeed. Yay me. So, okay, it can turn your world upside down. Oh my God, I caught bees. Now what do I do? Next slide, please. Okay, so you've got to transfer them to a hive. Warning, the bees will be as likely as not to cooperate with your goals, to enslave them. This is from the Rules for Vegan Living, or as we like to phrase it, provide a safe and secure forever home where they have a purpose. That's what I feel about what I'm doing. So next slide, please. So chances are, if you've been patient and you've waited, you're going to have at the top of the image wax being built out on your foundation, and in the cavity of the trap, there's a 6-inch cavity roughly. Doesn't really matter, but 6 inches. Some people say 42 liters of volume. I don't know. We just build with whatever we have. You've got these great naturally drawn comb packed with pollen. You got eggs over here, and you've got to deal with that. And you've got to be ready. Next slide, please. Take a deep breath and relax. It's about to get messy and loud. You will probably need some large rubber bands, a knife, screwdriver, work platform, plus equipment you are transferring your free bees into. Next slide, please. Okay, so in this image, I am slicing a piece of comb from under a frame, and you can see there's capped honey and nectar and some bees. Next slide, please. Okay, this image is of a frame without foundation. It's got a 1-inch wooden strip with wax brushed on it, and it's got fishing line or wire run in between the side rails of the frame. You press the comb that you've cut off into the wax board. It's kind of sticky, and you push the comb into the fishing line. Next slide, please. Okay, and then you take your large rubber bands and run them horizontally and vertically doubled over to secure the comb into place. And you will have cat brood, eggs, all sorts of good, valuable stuff. And they will run with it from there, and they'll cut the rubber bands, they'll come out the bottom of the hive. They'll cover that whole thing with comb. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the final step. This is going into the box, and it shows on that frame where they've drawn out a bunch of comb, and then you can see the next two frames are rubber banded in comb that they built underneath the trap frames and bees. And next slide, please. Okay, I do not care what bait you use. This is what I recommend and nothing else. You can do all sorts of things. There's great recipes out there. Swarm Commander works. I love it. I've used lemongrass. And I will add to that, brush the inside of your swarm trap with wax. And I just read something that I'm interested in, possibly breaking down propolis with alcohol and brushing that on. And next slide, please. Okay. It was suggested that this was a good addition to this presentation. This is about Russian schooling. I don't know. So anyhow, it's about a Russian one of those. And what it is it is designed to catch your swarms as they're leaving your boxes and having them in your apiary still for you. The image on the left, I think, is a burlap sack coated with propolis and wax. And the image on the right-hand side is a quarter log with a propolis glob, and the bees are attracted to it. And next slide, please. And now here is a picture I'm more interested in. This is a log on a flat board that is suspended fairly high up above your bee yard, for those people at home, fairly high up above your bee yard, and it's covered in bees. Next slide, please. So what the purpose of this is when your bees swarm, they have a place to go to, and perhaps you got to be paying attention that day, and you saw them out there, and you clued into it, and you can just lower them into your box, and you've got them. Really awesome. Next slide, please. Okay, now here is a spinoff from that. Taking comb, drawn comb without resources. You don't want things that
you don't want those attracted to it. So there's a
wax moss. You know, fine line here. That might be maybe over the line in my opinion. But I'm really intrigued by this because you can lower this down into your waiting box if you have swarms. So next slide, please. Okay, so combine these two ideas and you really have something, in my humble opinion. And consider modern alert system. I read where a guy had a little in-home baby camera or motion sensitive camera, or the Ring thing, or or I don't know, but it was cool. I couldn't find it, but he rigged it up so he had automatic notifications of swarm in his thing. It was awesome. Next slide, please. Oh, we're done. That's awesome. Okay. Okay. So for those of you at home, Byron, if you would roll back to a picture with the swarm trap and just yeah, anyone that's kind of I think so. Okay, so I passed around a frame which is right there. So we made it halfway around the room. All good.
That one good, or you want to go farther back?
Okay. I'm sorry, Byron. Can you go to this one? It's towards the end, I think. Okay, so what this is this is a common frame for interbox. This is a frame with foundation in it. So foundation is what they will build on. It's really awesome. It's great stuff. But the reason I like and I like the frame that is shown in the picture is they will actually build on this wooden strip before they will build on foundation every time, every single time. Yeah, it's weird. And a lot of the times they will build underneath after they build in this frame as opposed to on the black foundation. This creates all sorts of problems in your smorgasbord of different things going on in your bee yard. It's weak, it's flimsy, it'll plop out when it's full of honey. So be aware you've created issues down the road, but I think it's worth it. My brother disagrees with me violently, and he doesn't no longer runs these anymore. I think it's because he doesn't like to take the time to make them. So I made 30 of them last year and gave him some. I don't know what his opinion is. Okay, so in my trap, I have 5 frames, and I have about that much space. And I think it measures out to 9 5/8, but it's not exact. But what is critical is that you can have a little bit of room to pull them in and out, and they're just not locked into place miserably. Okay? It's not rocket science. It's just bee space, 3/8 of an inch. I've had little nails and held them into place so that they didn't rattle because they're thrown in the back of my truck. And I'm lazy and I don't check to make sure they're lined up when I'm hanging them on the tree by the French cleat, which is, for those of you at home, a French cleat is my design is a 2x4 that is cut at a 20-degree angle, and you attach it to the tree by some gentle method, and you hang the opposing side there, but you can use straps. You can do all sorts of different hanging things. There's plenty of images online for that type of thing. It's suggested that you hang it 12 feet up in the air. I never do. I hang it as high as I can reach comfortably because I'm lazy and I don't like to carry a ladder and I don't like to stand on a bucket and I don't want to hurt myself, and it's convenient. So maybe I've missed out on a whole lot. I don't know. The disc you can get at a variety of different places. It's a 4-inch disc. The trick with the disc is carry around a little screwdriver, and once you get it open, set the disc hard. And then when you're going to go close it, when you've caught your bees and you decide it's time, they gotta have ventilation. So you set it on the ventilation side, but you can loosen the screw first, or you use your hive tool to whack it really good. Because if you're quick, you don't get stuck. But if you're not quick, you should have put your bee suit on. So wear your bee suit, wear gloves, be ready. Any questions? Yes.
You want to tell them on that storm commander? Maybe a couple of sprays, but you don't want to use a lot of oil if they're clean.
Yeah, a little goes a long way. Stan has caught a ton of swarms. He is a swarm catching fool. And absolutely a squirt, maybe 2 squirts if you're not going to be there for a while. When I first set them out, I will squirt on the top inside, and I will squirt through the hole open. And then when I go back every 2 weeks, in theory, sometimes in a month, I will give it another squirt inside, and I'll try to angle it up a little bit, and I'll try to think like a bee, and I'm probably doing everything wrong, but you can make up whatever scenario in your head that is most beneficial for good sleep at night.
The other thing is painting those inside with the wax.
Beeswax.
Talking to Joe Lewis, who was a speaker here one time, he thinks that a lot of times that the smell of the wax in the summertime when it gets real hot, that wax smell starts coming out the hole, and they love the wax smell as much as they love lemongrass.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that at all. I think that the wax is critical, and I actually use my dirty wax for that, and I slather it on. It's just I mess it on the inside.
Do you put any frames in there with foam on it? 'Cause I usually put like 1 or 2 foam on it. That way, you can go through
Absolutely.
Place to start laying.
Yes, Dan brings up a great point. If you have some comb I like to use partially drawn comb because, again, you can have a wax moth issue. So I like to use a kind of a partially drawn frame, kind of as a start drawing comb here, little arrows that say, I would like you to work with me. And I think that's a huge plus, so.
Well, one of the things you can do in order to discourage wax moths is some of that squirt tech, the BP product.
Yeah.
Spray your comb with that. Then if the wax moths do come in and lay eggs, when they hatch out, the larva will die. So then your wax won't be destroyed.
And what Janice said for people at home is there's a product called Sertan,
Yes.
and it is a spray-on wax moth prohibitive treatment.
It's basically caterpillars and larvae, and it's a biological bacteria that if the larva ingest it, it kills them.
Nice.
So if you spray the wax that you're going to put in your swarm trap with that, then you won't come back, a week later and find that it's just a mess of webs and dirt.
They're nasty. They'll ruin everything. Any other questions?
Is that a standard size? Because that looks too big to me.
As far as the width goes, it's the same width as the 5-frame nuke. It's just a little more than 2 nukes deep.
Yeah. So
Like a deep and a shallow worth of depth, right?
yeah.
It's more like 2 deeps.
And I would say that this is probably a little bit overkill. We have traps that have half the hollow space, and they work just fine. But the lumber that we salvaged happened to work out really well for this without having to rip boards additionally. So we made them bigger. And I found some stuff that had a black vinyl coating on it. That blew out of somebody's truck, and I thought, wow, that will be great. And there it is.
Recycling.
Yes.
I like your paint, John.
Thank you very much.
It's quite nice.
One thing I would like to tell people, and this is something I ran into, I guess it was in the spring, is I had my neighbors come over and they were going, "Did you lose a beehive?" And I'm going, "What? No, I didn't lose a beehive." But somebody put a swarm trap on a tree that most people probably would have thought it was on the the right of way, but it was actually on their property. And, you know, the wife was allergic to bees, so it really concerned them when they walked up there and knocked on it and some bees flew out. They were just scouting. But anyway, they said I could have it. But I posted it and whoever it belonged to came and picked it up. But if you're gonna put out a storm trap, put your information on there so people can contact you. Because if it had information on there, the people who owned the property probably just would have called them and they probably would have said it was okay and would have left it there. But as it was, I could have got a really nice free swarm trap.
I tried to claim it as my own, but I felt
I
ashamed.
had a lot of volunteers that said they would come and get it, but I didn't feel right doing that. But if you're going to put one out, you need to talk to whoever owns the property first, make sure it's okay. But in lieu of that, you should put your name on there so that they can contact you.
How would you do that though? Started burning it on the wood. Is that what you do?
Duct tape with a magic marker.
Yeah, you could use a Sharpie. Will last for quite a while. The Sharpie.
But make sure you use a gold paint Sharpie because the bees only like that. It's very critical.
They like bling.
Yeah, just,
Yes, glitter pins.
Get some little brass kegs or something, or paint it on. Just get some black paint, paint it on.
I think whoever did it, they were it was really interesting that they chose Jan's proximity to try to catch swarms.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, they may have seen my hives and did it, but it's just common courtesy. Talk to the landowners. And if you do think it's not going to matter, at least put your name and stuff on there because they could have lost a really nice.
It's probably best just to have permission.
Yes.
That's it for me. Thank you. Oh, one more question.
So this is not, so we got those plans.
Uh-huh.
This is not that.
Those are great plans to use. I think Stan used them.
Okay.
Maybe.
But this is not.
This is roughly the plans. Yeah, there's 4 more in the back of my truck, and they're all different sizes.
Okay. Use what you got.
Yeah.
I took it this
These
year,
are real.
I hung my swarm trap about 100 yards from mine. I think I caught all my swarms in that group.
That's an interesting management technique.
Yeah.
Let them swarm.
I didn't-
I've done the same thing, unfortunately.
Well, that's where the one that's up there high, because when the bees come out, they'll look for a place to land while they're trying to find a place to go, and they're attracted to that.
I've got one live oak branch in my yard that is the favorite.
Yeah, they usually go to the same place, so if you can, put, a deal up there right where they like it, they go up there, then you got a webcam on there that tells you they're up there, go lower them down, then put a queen excluder on the bottom so she can't leave again.
Yeah. Fun stuff. Anybody else? Awesome. Good luck.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So the bees are full.
So the bees are
Greetings.
The other thing you can do is people like to steal those every now and then. So you put danger Africanized bees.
That's true.
Well,
Any last words, Jen?
when he's talking about a spray for spraying, and that's something you can do when you're installing packages and stuff too. Just take like a 1 part sugar to 3 parts water and make a kind of a sugar water spray and then just mist it on the bees, and they'll get so busy cleaning each other off that they'll kind of stay together and they won't fly. You can also just mist some water too, but if you put a little bit of sugar in there, they spend all the time cleaning each other.
Okay, for you folks at home, I think that's gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna go ahead and end the session, and we'll see y'all in a month or so.